Hi everybody, I'm Tanya Jones, hypnotherapist and aromatherapist. It's an absolute pleasure to be invited to speak today. And I thought I would. I racked my brains when Molly called me a couple of days ago and she said, what would you like to speak on? I went, I know, it'll be woo-woo to woohoo, woohoo! And a lot of people view hypnotherapy, which is the thing I do most. There are people in the community around who do find it quite woo-woo, and I thought I'd just like to debunk a few of the myths around that. I'll tell you a bit about me first though. I actually started off in life with a university degree in political studies. I then went on and travelled. I then decided I'd like to be a journalist, so I went back and studied again and got a certificate in journalism, and I worked for Radio New Zealand in New Zealand, where my growing up years were, other than my first 10, which were in Zimbabwe. And I also worked for IRN, Independent Radio News, in Auckland, so that was an interesting time of my life. I then did travel a little more, and then I travelled some more, and then I came and lived in Australia, where I've been for the last 18 years. I've worked in real estate while I've been here. I've carried out all sorts of roles, but whilst I was travelling, I did a diploma in aromatherapy in London with Tisserand, and that was 20 years ago now. When I came to Australia, I found I'd like to add something to that skill base, and I studied hypnotherapy. I have a certificate in clinical hypnotherapy, and then I loved it so much I thought I'd add some more in, and I now have got qualifications in hypnosis for fertility and holistic gastric band hypnosis, and I thought I'd tell you a bit more about those things today. Now, people do, as I mentioned, people do sometimes think that hypnotherapy is a bit woo-woo because I don't fully understand it, but it's actually, there's a really easy scientific explanation for it. It's nothing special I do. You might perhaps think of the ticking pendulum fob watches that you see on the movies, and they kind of give that's sort of propagated the idea that hypnotherapy is a bit woo-woo, because in movies it's used for dark deeds often, or to do something unpleasant. And of course, people may remember Martin St. James or know of stage hypnotists, and they're basically here to entertain, and that's a good night out. That's very funny to see people clucking like chickens. And people often say when they come and sit in the comfy chair with me, you're not going to make me cluck like a chicken, are you? And no, I'm not, ever. Because the difference is hypnotism for therapy is quite different. And it's not a special state that I create. It's actually a state that I help you get to. It's a state where your brainwaves slow down from delta. We're in delta every day. Right now we are. When we drift off into a bit of a daydream, it becomes alpha. And that's simply your brainwaves slowing down. To slip a little further,
this meeting is being recorded.
We actually go a little deeper when we fall asleep than that daydreaming state, and we slip into theta, and then we go a little deeper. But hypnosis, amazingly, we can keep people right there in the state of hypnosis, just drifting gently, consciously aware of noise around you and voices, but beautifully relaxed, and just like you're having a power nap. And that's when your brainwaves are in theta. Your conscious mind is actually disarmed slightly, in that you can just slow it down. The conscious mind's a thinking tool, and it's really busy. And it's quite hard to adjust things in the background in your subconscious mind if that's busy chatting away all the time. And if we can just allow the brainwaves to slow down, get you comfortable and relaxed, the subconscious mind is ready and waiting for any possible suggestion that you want to feed to it. Hypnotherapy works best, well, it really only works properly when people come to me of their own volition. People need to choose to come, and then you're 70% of the way there already, which is exciting because you've done the heavy lifting just by making the phone call, coming and sitting in the chair ready to do the work. And that is why it's miraculous that people can give up smoking in one session when it's been a habit of almost a lifetime. If you want to be there, then your subconscious mind makes itself available and just slurps up all that lovely positive suggestion that the therapist makes. Now, there are therapists who will just read off a script, plenty of those around. I've had the I was going to say the fortune. I've chosen to really go on a personal development journey, and I've participated in all sorts of therapies. I've upskilled, and I've learnt lots of other things because I found hypnotherapy exciting when I learnt it, and I decided also to do a diploma in body psychotherapy. That's got a heavy counselling component, and I have found that it's enormously empowering for people to get to talk as well and to be heard in a private space confidentially with someone. Perhaps there are things that they haven't talked about since they were a teenager, or what the dynamic was growing up in their household. It's always confidential with a therapist, and it's quite refreshing for a person to be able to unburden themselves and talk and get the things off their chest that they may be sick of sharing with their best friends, or don't even talk about anymore, or maybe haven't even told their partner because it's a deep dark secret. And that often is what underlies drinking disorders, eating disorders, not even disorders, if you're just carrying a little too much weight, or if you're now just having a little too much extra wine. It's marvelously easy to adjust you to where you'd like to be. If you do drink 3/4 of a bottle of wine every night, we can easily get you to 2 glasses at the weekend. I frequently do fun, cool stuff like that. I remember one of the women I worked with in the early days when I first qualified, she said, "Tanya, I want to get up in the morning at 5 and walk. Well, it's winter now, but because I'm up and running my business, that's the time of day when I have time to do something for myself, and I want to lose a bit of weight. I want to walk, and also, please, I want to give up chocolate." Now, I worked in her natural therapies. She had a shop, and I worked in the therapy side. I said, "Sure, let's do that." So she said, I don't think I'm quite ready to get up at 5 in the morning yet because it's dark, but let's just get the hypnotherapy underway, and that'll get me predisposed towards doing this. And I only want to eat 2 squares of chocolate at weekends. I can eat half a bar or a bar. And I went, okay, well, let's do that. So we had a session, and pretty sure it was on a Saturday. I saw her on the Monday, and she said, "Well, thanks very much, Tanya." Sunday morning, and I was up at 5 for my walk. And my daughter came over and offered me chocolate, and I only ate 2 squares. And she went on to do that. She got up and walked every day at 5, and she's only ever eaten 2 squares of chocolate at weekends, because I don't believe in people having to give up their treats. You can still have the treats and still have control and moderation over the stuff you do. So that's fun stuff. Hypnosis for fertility is one of the other things I focus on, and that probably has brought me my most joy. There are 2 little babies in the world as we speak, and they're the result of 2 clients in particular. They were the perfect age, weight, health to conceive, and couldn't. Between them, they had 5 years of trying to conceive. 1 2 years, 1 2.5. They were on the IVF journey by now. They'd had numerous egg pickups, multiple embryo transfers. One had had a miscarriage, one an ectopic pregnancy, and both, after 1 session, conceived. They came back for their 2nd session and said, "I'm pregnant." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's so exciting, that's fantastic." And I was jumping around for glee. But of course they were quite traumatized from losing babies, and the fear of wanting to and worrying now whether they'd hold on to the baby. It's reminding me of which I've had a client recently who's had 5 miscarriages, can't get past the 5-week mark. And we got her to 17 weeks, and she said, "Tanya, the only thing we've done differently on our journey this time is hypnosis, is the hypnotherapy." So there's good news. With the holistic gastric band hypnosis, that's kind of fun too, because that's like, what? How could you possibly do that? Because that's not in the normal physical reality of our world. Medically, they put a band around your stomach to make it smaller to help you lose weight. And that's all they address, is the size of your stomach. They do not address why you ate the weight on in the first place, which I think is cruel and negligent and not really doing a proper job, and sucking lots of money out of your bank account in the process. It can cost $14,000 to $23,000, depending on your health cover, to get that procedure done. And just with the suggestion in hypnosis that you've had the surgery done, and we address the reasons why you ate it on in the first place, then it's amazingly successful. I had a guy lose 16 kilos in 5 weeks. That's awesome. But he had it to lose, like he was 184 kilos. I've recently had a client drive all the way from Toowoomba to see me, which was enormously gratifying and exciting. I spoke up in Toowoomba recently, and he and his wife travelled down. He lost 3 kilos in his first week, and he's a diabetic by his 5th week, because the gastric band hypnosis program is a 5-week program. By his 5th week, his blood sugar readings were all under 5, and it looks highly likely he will probably become, he won't be a diabetic anymore. If he can maintain that, those readings mean he's not a diabetic. And he'd also, I think, lost 6 or 7 kilos by his last session. So he stopped drinking in the evening. He actually hadn't had a beer in 5 weeks, and he wasn't missing it. He said, my son came round the other day, and my wife asked me in the morning whether I'd have a beer with my son. And I said, oh yeah, I might have one later. And I said, did you have one? He said, no, didn't feel like it. Had a glass of water. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's startling for a man who was drinking a couple of beers every evening. And he was eating sensibly and just doing a little more exercise when he could. And I'm excited for him. His wife lost 1 kilo in the first week with him, because they stopped having biscuits for morning tea and that sort of thing, and she didn't even do the hypnosis. So that was quite fun doing that. So I think that's why hypnotherapy is going from woo-woo to woohoo. It's just a lovely state all of us are in every single day of our lives just before we fall asleep. It's a natural human state. And you might have heard of highway hypnosis. When you drive somewhere and you get there and you go, oh my God, I don't even remember driving here today. That's because you've slipped almost into theta, from alpha into theta. You're a competent driver, you've driven for years, you know the route. There wasn't bad traffic, so you just drove almost on autopilot while your brain thought its thoughts and relaxed. And that's a form of hypnosis itself. So that I just explained that to show you that we are all in hypnosis. It's nothing strange. You can't get stuck in hypnosis either. I think that has been a possible fear for some people. Could I get stuck in there and not come out? Not at all. If a plane crashed on the roof of my house or the fire alarm went off, you can just open your eyes and carry on functioning. It's just a power nap, and you can wake up and carry on. You can't get stuck down there either, because it is just a sleep state. If I do occasionally have clients who go very deep, and then you can just give them a little gentle press on the shoulder or say their name a few times and up they come. Sometimes it's so nice down there. People just want to stay and float around and enjoy the sensation of relaxation. But hypnosis is really great for helping address things that you'd like to address, like insomnia and stopping smoking, all those sort of things. But it has positive side effects, believe it or not. It actually boosts your immune system. Scientific studies show this. It reduces your blood pressure if your blood pressure's up too high. It doesn't drop it if it's too low. That's special. And it increases your sense of well-being. So for people with anxiety and depression, it's actually massively beneficial to have this over a period of time. And I really do think I give a great shout out for it, because people can see psychotherapists, psychologists or counsellors for a long, long time and make a bit of progress to a degree and be heard. The hypnosis is a wonderful addition to that process. You can speak and be heard in a space where the person is listening from their heart and without judgment. But then you can also get the added benefit of just having a new track laid down over an old track that really isn't serving you anymore. And in fact, any one of us can have hypnosis if there's just something you even wanted to tweak in your life. But it's wonderfully successful for people who want greater change, who've got kilos to shed, or have a baby. That stuff's really exciting.